What's happening, guys? Hopefully you're all having a fantastic day out there. I want to thank you for stopping by to check out this video, and I think you're going to be happy that you did. Today we're talking about the massive sweeping sci-fi adventure called Alita: Battle Angel. It's directed by Robert Rodriguez, with James Cameron coming in to co-write and produce. Rosa Salazar is in the lead as Alita. She has a great supporting cast and an epic-sized story to play in, so let's get into the awesome of this movie, the not so awesome, and whether or not I think it's worth seeing on the big screen. The story in this one is pretty dense for a quick synopsis, but I'm going to give it a shot. It's basically hundreds of years in the future, cyborg technology and human life coexist as if it's nothing. It's an age of despair for those on the ground in Iron City. It's an age of luxury for those up in the floating city of Tifaris. And while scouting, a doctor finds this disembodied female cyborg. He brings her back to life, and she's going to have to discover who she is and where she came from. And she ends up discovering that she's a fighter, and a very good one, that could end up changing the balance of Iron City to end the despair for good. This movie is the combination of the first 4 entries in Yukido Kishiro's manga series, and it does cover a lot of ground story-wise. It plugs in a ton of world building through expositional dialogue throughout the movie, but it didn't bother me that much. I mean, some science fiction purists may not like the fact that it doesn't really deep dive into the layers of the world that it's set in, but I mean, while watching, I felt consistently caught up with things, and I thought there was a nice delivery of the who, what, when, where, and whys of the plot line, that I was really able to get a strong grasp of the relevance of many scenes, as well as the weight and intrigue of many of the various relationship dynamics. Like I said earlier, this was very much a wide-sweeping science fiction saga, but it was also a coming-of-age story. It was also a romance story with strong shades of a young adult novel to it. I think all of these elements really were woven together nicely, with an even amount of attention given to make each of them resonate with me. They all did have their own arc, so to speak, that all translated back to the growth of the main character, and I thought it was very compelling. I think the love she felt for the guy who caught her eye felt sincere, and it all really did drape over the spectacle of the science fiction themes perfectly to result in a cinematic experience, one that absolutely needs to be seen on the big screen. I think the technical crafting overall was just absolutely phenomenal. There wasn't a single frame in this movie that just wasn't beautifully crafted. It was as immersive as a film as I can remember seeing, and for 2 hours this thing was just dazzling my eyes with literally a non-stop feast of spectacular visuals. I thought the character designs were detailed and imaginative. Each set piece was immaculate. Landscapes and backdrops were just rich with a ton of depth. Textures were able to capture the grime of the city streets and the elegance of the technology, as well as the grittiness of it. I thought the lighting and the color palette just captured many moods and different emotional tones, and it really did provide a thought-provoking future world through the visual appeal, and all of which just made this movie a complete blast from start to finish. And I have to say, I think the 3D was awesome. I'm hit and miss with 3D movies, but when done right, I really do enjoy the feeling of being pulled into the storyline, and that's something that this movie absolutely pulls off, because I think it's the best use of IMAX 3D that I can remember seeing in many years. I think it truly did bring the film to life, and even without the IMAX 3D aspect, this is still just a wildly adventurous story that can take you on a great ride, but putting the glasses on is what makes this movie an experience, in my opinion. There's going to be no forgetting that you're watching this movie in 3D, because this one is just constantly having things pour out into the audience, and I think each set piece is constructed with just many layers of depth. So if you don't mind the glasses, I definitely recommend them, because that's when this movie is at its best. I think the mocap work was top of the line. It really did allow the emotion and the charisma of the performance to shine. I think Rosa Salazar did a great job. She just was absolutely able to command the screen with her sincerity. I thought she had a great chemistry with Christoph Waltz, who was just cool, calm, and collected, and just perfectly casted for this role to solidify that character. Jennifer Connelly and Mahershala Ali were both more than serviceable. I do, though, think that their characters were just hindered from some express development, but I still think that they did work for the needs of the story. They brought a noticeable capability to some otherwise routine characters. And I would say express is a good word to use when describing the story as well, because it did feel like a bullet point narrative. I mean, I absolutely loved what it did tell me, but it felt like there was much more to be told. Things in this movie are happening very quickly throughout, relationships, events, situations. They're constantly advancing, and I do think the exposition does a great job of keeping the viewer up to speed with things, but at the same time, there were some noticeable sections where it felt like some significant amounts of story could have been told in between the events that we see, but it didn't hinder the film for me too much, primarily because it was just a well-crafted adventure with a ton of immersive sequences and so many other positives in its corner that I was engaged in. This movie certainly was not a case of style over substance, although more substance probably could have been a nice thing in my opinion. I did love what this movie gave me and I had a good time with it, so I'm going to have to give Alita Battle Angel a solid 90% on the entertainment meter. I recommend checking it out. I think despite being cutting edge, it still captured an old school sci-fi appeal that I really enjoyed. It could have been darker and more explorative with the story itself, but I think they found a very nicely positioned middle ground that can make this movie mass consumable and appealing to a wider audience, because this is a stunning film from start to finish and they do not come cheap. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. I would love to hear from you all. Here are some links to some recent reviews just in case you missed them. The link to my official website, all my social media and merchandise store links are going to be down in the description below. And in the event me talking to you guys about movies every couple days is not enough Anthony in your life, I now have a second YouTube channel with a growing collection of non-movie related content for you guys to check out, and I'll see you guys next time.